Data from a new joint Angus Reid study reveals an overwhelming majority, 82%, believe the pandemic has pulled people apart, as opposed to bringing them together. About the same number, 79% say this period has brought out the worst, not the best, in people. Nearly two-thirds, 61%, say Canadians' level of compassion for one another has weakened. And 70% believe Canada will struggle just as much in the next pandemic. Well, talk about optimism. Okay, let's try and break this down. We're joined by Shachi Kurl, president of the Angus Reid Institute, and Kerry Bowman, bioethicist and University of Toronto assistant professor with the Faculty of Medicine. Thanks so much. Shachi, I was not surprised that people are feeling like they've been pulled apart from family and friends and peers. And to add to it, here in Ontario, as you know, the province's chief medical officer of health says on March the 21st, it's a choice if you want to wear a mask or not. So what do you anticipate? I mean, are people's feelings going to be worse and more divisive?
Yeah, and big changes here on the West Coast, where I'm speaking to you from as well, with dropping of mandatory mandates in certain for masks and vaccines in certain circumstances. Look, it's like COVID turned 2 and the country had a toddler tantrum. We're not in a good place in terms of how we see ourselves, our country, society, our communities. What I want to say is, and you outlined some of those really stark numbers. Those are super majorities. Anytime you see 70 or 80% of people feeling that way, it means it cuts across demographic lines, regional lines, political lines. People of all walks of life are feeling this way. Now, if there's some comfort to be taken, it is one of gratitude. 70% of Canadians also say that they are grateful to have been living in Canada through the last 2 years of this pandemic relative to a lot of other countries in the world where it has been so much more objectively worse. But the other takeaway, and I would say let's all just take a deep collective breath here, is that we're coming out of a period of the Omicron virus, which kind of knocked people through them for a loop. We thought we were coming out of this after Delta and double vaccination. All of a sudden, you had a strain that was so virulent and in some cases resistant to vaccination. That was a big driver, and we were all left going, what? We did everything we were asked for, and now this hasn't gone away. It's starting to subside. You combine that with what we've seen over the last month with the trucker convoy and the protests in Ottawa and Toronto and in Windsor, it's left people feeling really brittle. I would like to, and I would hope, and we have seen data change month to month, week to week. I would like to think that going forward in a few months, if things start to calm down, then people will actually start to collectively exhale. But here's where we are at the 2-year mark.
Yeah, and not to mention, you know, some of these relationships and this idea of this social fabric, you know, relationships that have been hurt or damaged by people's personal views, whether it comes to masking or vaccines or how people felt about the Ottawa Freedom Convoy. Can that be repaired? I will come right back to you, Shachi. I want to bring in Kerry Bowman, bioethicist. Kerry, the wearing of masks after March the 21st, it's going to be a choice. Are people going to feel like wearing it, or when someone sees someone else wearing it, that they are making a statement, an ideological statement, a political statement, keeping in mind we don't know people's personal challenges, health information, or the personal challenges and health information of their family and friends? How is this going to play out?
Well, hopefully it will play out in a respectful way. But look, I agree with Shachi. People are not in a great mood. And I'm not saying we're coming out of this pandemic because I don't know. But even if we are, we're coming out of it in not a very good mood. But here's the thing. We really, really need to respect people's choices on this. So exactly what you're saying. You know, if someone is choosing to wear a mask, who knows what's going on in their family or their own health status? None of our business. If someone's choosing not to wear a mask and the mandate are lifted, we're going to have to accept that as well. And look, the ethical equation has really shifted here because, you know, we focused on vulnerability and protecting people at the vulnerable for so long throughout the pandemic. And now it's kind of, you got to figure this out for yourself. So there's quite a shift. But look, I just want to say as well, I'm not surprised by this data. There's been a huge amount of collateral damage. And, you know, what's the pandemic and what's public health measures? I actually think our political leadership, and as well as a lot of people doing pandemic commentary, this endless talk of no-brainers and carrots and sticks and aggressive talk towards anyone that doesn't conform, and this drift from public health into almost policing of people. I think it went too far, and I think it's caused a lot of damage. And I think we'll be mopping up this damage for some time to come. I think we really pushed things much too far on many fronts.
Yeah, I was not surprised by this poll at all. Kerry, you noted you weren't either. Shachi, I imagine you weren't either. It is quite clear that there is this divisiveness amongst Canadians, families, friends, colleagues. Shachi, is there an opportunity for repair? Do you think, and I know you touched on this, if you were to do this poll in June or July, the damage that has been done in relationships, is there, I mean, in your opinion, as a pollster, a feeling that it's kind of, this is in the past, it was a difficult time for everyone, people will move forward, or do you think Canadians will harbor resentment?
Oh gosh, I mean, the answer here, and I don't mean to sound flaky about it, is it depends. And in part, it depends on circumstances. So do we see a new variant? Gosh, don't we all hope not? Do we see people starting to emerge, both not just in terms of pandemic life, but now their economic life, dealing with inflation, dealing with higher costs for almost every consumer item out there? Do we start to see a bit of a collective deep breath being taken, or is it just stress adding to more stress? And we'll have more data out tomorrow on the state of Canadians' mental health at this stage. What I can't say as a pollster is what Canadians will feel in the future, because this isn't like crystal ball session. This isn't the 1-900, let me tell you your future session. But what I can say, looking at trend lines, looking at data over 2 years, is that we've seen these ebbs and flows. People tend to start to feel a little bit lighter as spring comes. And as we've seen the worst of outbreaks and the worst of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth waves start to subside, you do start to see that lightness. So the big anxiety and the unknown is, has the corner turned in a more normalized or even semi-permanent, dare we say, way? Or are we just heading into the next sort of fallow period before the next big wave hits? These are the things that keep Canadians, and just frankly any human beings, in a state of sort of heightened anxiety. They don't know if they can relax. And, you know, as I say, if the months that come ahead offer us some collective reassurance around that, I think we will start to feel the temperature coming down both externally and internally, but it really depends on circumstances.
You know what, Shachi, Kerry, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have tonight. Would love to have you on in a few months together again and see how we do with all this. And we look forward to your poll coming out tomorrow, Shachi. Of course, no surprise that the mental health of Canadians and people around the world has been challenged as well. Thank you both.
All right, take care.
Very welcome.